Fade in. The wee hours of July 20th, 1949. A well-dressed celebrity and his entourage exit a swanky Hollywood nightclub on the glamorous Sunset Strip into the impending dawn. Suddenly, the stillness is shattered by the blast of gunfire. It is one of the most sensational shootings in Hollywood history. But this is no movie. The target of the hit is not an actor, but real-life gangster Mickey Cohen, a Hollywood celebrity in his own right. Colorful, flamboyant, image-conscious, Mickey Cohen is a new breed of gangster, the high-profile Hollywood hood.
If you lived in L.A. in the 40s and you didn't know who Mickey Cohen was, you had to be in a mental institution. You know, he was everybody's ideal of a gangster in this town.
Mickey Cohen was made for this town, or more accurately, was made by this town. He appears to be the image of the lovable mobster, charming, decent, and a true character. Rubbing shoulders with celebrities like evangelist Billy Graham and Sammy Davis Jr., while at the same time, he was the ruthless king of Hollywood's dark underbelly of vice and corruption.
Somebody once said Mickey was one of the nicest killers you'll ever want to meet.
Mickey Cohen's story is the stuff great movies are made of, full of fame, fortune, action, comedy, and tragedy. And in a town which manufactures myths, Mickey Cohen would become a legend.
Rogues Gallery is narrated by William Devane. This episode, Mickey Cohen.
Mickey Cohen grew up a tough street punk with a third-grade education. He worked hard to recast himself as a stylish gentleman. A sharp dresser who never wore the same suit twice. A compulsive hand washer who never felt clean. In a town where everything is phony, Mickey fit right in.
Mickey was probably one of the cleanest living guys you would ever meet. He never smoked, he never drank, he didn't use profanity in front of women, he conducted himself always like a gentleman.
On the other hand, he was fierce, brutal, and fearless, a small man with big ambitions. Mickey Cohen fought his way to the top until he controlled the City of Angels, making many powerful friends and enemies along the way.
He didn't think small, he thought big. And being a small man, you know, he used to put this into practice. He would go up against anybody.
In 1937, Mickey Cohen is 24 years old and eking out an existence on the streets of New York and Chicago as a featherweight boxer and small-time criminal. Learning the gangster trade from mentors like Al Capone and Frank Costello. Mickey has a reputation for being a tough scrapper in the ring, but it's when he bludgeons a rival in a busy Chicago restaurant that things get a little too hot for him in the Windy City, and the local bosses decide to send him back to his hometown of Los Angeles.
And it was just about this time that the New York people were sending Ben Siegel out here. And so they says, let's send Mickey with him. He would be a good right-hand man for Ben Siegel.
In the 1930s, Los Angeles is a glamorous dreamland, full of sunshine, palm trees, and movie stars. For the most part, the only gangsters in the City of Angels are on the big screen.
This was a very, very clean town. Nothing like Detroit or Chicago.
Our gangster element was small fry compared to what was going on in the eastern cities.
Organized crime is in its infancy in sunny Los Angeles, and when Mickey arrives, the only real boss in town is Jack Dragna.
Jack Dragna was an old-time Italian gangster that was running things at that time, but it was a very small operation. He didn't have a racing wire. He just had some few little casinos, a little bookmaking, and things like that.
Los Angeles is the land of dreams and overnight successes, and Mickey Cohen arrives like so many other wannabes, hoping to make a name for himself. Rather than hooking up with Siegel, Mickey makes a bold and audacious move when he heists a lucrative bookie joint that turns out to be Jack Dragna's. He has announced his arrival on the Los Angeles scene in a big way. Dragna is livid and calls for Mickey's head. It's up to Siegel to try to keep the peace.
Their first encounter wasn't real good because Ben wanted him to kick back the money. Mickey refused, and he said he wouldn't kick any money back to his own mother.
Siegel and Cohen eventually hammer out an agreement, and Mickey begins carving out a role for himself in the LA crime world. He quickly organizes the men who will become the core of his gang, the close-knit group of tough guys who will be his trusted aides and good friends.
Mickey had places set up all through Hollywood, Burbank, Pasadena, every place. Mickey had bookmakers almost on every street corner.
But in the late 30s Hollywood, the real power brokers in town are the movie moguls.
Those were the days of L.B. and Jack Warner and Harry Cohen. They practically ran this town. They had their own police forces themselves.
These guys were tough guys, and they were pioneers type of guys. And they didn't want to answer to anybody. It's like the bosses at the studios were kind of gangsters in a way themselves.
All right, take it.
And as such, this crowd loved to rub shoulders with real-life gangsters, more than often patronizing the gambling parlors and bookie joints that flourished in the post-Prohibition era.
A lot of times you would see all kinds of movie stars, big money people. All these people were going to gambling because they thought that it was very glamorous and fun.
There they go.
Gambling is a growth industry among Hollywood's elite who love the services Mickey Cohen provides.
I mean, a lot of these people, Clark Gable and real classy guys that love to rub elbows with these thugs and hoods. And there was, for every person that went to the track, there was 100 that went to the bookies.
Likewise, Mickey Cohen is seduced by Tinsel Town.
He liked the image of Hollywood. He liked the glamour of Hollywood, and he liked to convey that. He was immaculately dressed whenever you saw him, and that reflected on his personality.
He was a classy dresser and never wore the same thing twice. I must have met Mickey hundreds of times. I never saw him in the same suit.
As Cohen begins to recreate himself, he tries to emulate Ben Siegel's handsome style and charm. Although Mickey doesn't quite have the same suave good looks, Ben becomes a mentor and a role model.
Ben Siegel looked like a movie star. Mickey Cohen looked like a wannabe movie star. But they both dressed the same way. I mean, they were both immaculate in their appearances.
In his autobiography, he says, "With Benny, I became involved in a higher element of people. Then I started to realize how crude and rough I was. My way of life was so bad. Atmosphere has got to do with a whole lot of bringing up a man." In fact, Mickey's upbringing is a rough one. By necessity, he is a fighter from a very young age.
He was the youngest of 6 children, and they had a very tough life. His father died when Mickey was just a few days old, and his mother came here and opened up a little mom-and-pop grocery store in Boyle Heights, which was at that time was considered a Jewish slum.
By the time he is 12 years old, he is in the ring fighting. Being small and Jewish in a rough neighborhood, boxing is one way to earn respect.
His brother Harry was in Cleveland, and he was promoting fights. That's how Mickey started his fight career. He used to go to New York and Chicago and all those places fighting, and then he used to pull holdups at the same time to supplement his income.
Although he came from a rough background, in Hollywood one could be whoever one chose to be. And Mickey begins a deliberate effort to remold himself in the guise of a gentleman and to cultivate an air of refinement.
He hired a tutor to teach him table manners, how to speak, a little bit better how to dress, trying to teach him to be more of a gentleman.
He was a street person constantly trying to polish his image, and that's the best way I can describe him.
Well, forget I'm an uneducated person. I've not had a day of schooling, and it enabled me to meet people going into my way of life that I would have never been able to meet otherwise.
While Mickey tries to hide his crude character and lack of education, there are certain realities he can't escape. Being unable to add or subtract made counting and dividing the massive amounts of cash that passed through his hands a constant problem. So he came up with a simple solution. As Mickey says in his book, "Believe me, I didn't know how to count too well, but we'd put $20 bills in one stack, tens in one stack, fives in another, singles all in a big bundle, and we'd go like one for you and one for me. That's the way we divided the money." What he lacked in education, Mickey more than made up for in street smarts. A rising star in the crime world, hobnobbing with celebrities, Mickey becomes a celebrity in his own right in the eyes of the public, not as a criminal, but as a good Samaritan.
The LA Examiner was the paper of record on crime in those days. Had a case in which they were reporting on the story of this old woman who was being evicted from her home, and what an outrage it was.
According to the story, an old woman had taken her radio in to be fixed by Alfred Pearson, but then she couldn't afford to pay the repair bill of $8.91. Pearson had gone to court and forced the woman's house to be auctioned, which he then bought for $26. The story had become a cause célèbre around Los Angeles. Since the court's hands were tied, the police asked Mickey if he could do something to get Pearson to give the woman back her home.
So Mickey sent his men down, and they practically beat this Pearson to death.
And the Examiner began describing Mickey Cohen as one of the patron saints of the disenfranchised in Los Angeles.
And there was a famous picture. It was Mickey and the Seven Dwarfs. They were trying to make Mickey Cohen look like Snow White and these 7 hoods.
Eventually, Mickey and his men go to trial for the Pearson beating and are acquitted. But Mickey's Snow White image is about to be stained with blood. By the late 40s, with Ben Siegel gone, Cohen becomes embroiled in a violent struggle for control of the LA rackets, the bloodiest gang war in the city's history. Mickey Cohen can't stop washing his hands. It's a compulsion, an obsession, which will rule him throughout his life, and ironically, one day save his life. As he says in his autobiography, "When I go out to a restaurant, I use up all of their toilet paper and all of their hand towels and all of their linen towels. I hope people don't think I'm goofy when on the outside everybody ridicules and makes fun of that, but it's my habits."
He constantly, no matter where he went, when he came to the police press room, the first thing he would do after meeting everybody was run in and wash his hands.
When Mickey first got his apartment in Brentwood, Mickey used to take very long showers. His showers could last 2-3 hours. And the one day there was a knock at the door, and I went there, and the landlord was there, and he says, "Mickey's taking such long showers that he used up all the hot water for everybody in the building. There was no more hot water."
Today, this affliction is diagnosed as obsessive-compulsive disorder and can be treated. But at the time, people wondered if Mickey was trying to wash the blood off his hands.
"I have killed no man that, in the first place, didn't deserve killing. In all of these what you would call killings, I had no alternative. It was either my life or their life."
Although Mickey cultivates an image as an affable, big-hearted, nice guy, beneath the veneer, he is dangerous, as rival gangster Maxie Shaman finds out when he tries to even a score with Mickey.
Mickey was in his office, and Maxie Shaman came rushing in, busted right in his office, and started hollering and screaming at Mickey, and he pulled a gun. But he didn't know that Mickey had a gun that he could take out quickly. And when Maxie Shaman was going to shoot Mickey, Mickey shot Maxie Shaman first and killed him.
Having corpses laying around the office was an occupational hazard in Cohen's line of work, and as usual, he calls his fixer, lawyer Jerry Giesler.
And Giesler says, "Well, look, Mickey, don't worry about it. Just get $25,000, get it to me tonight, and don't worry about it. Mickey got him the $25,000, and the case was all handled. Self-defense.
He never had one conviction because he had a favorable image in the community, and he always was saying that, it was a frame-up, that police were out to get him.
He could never get convicted by anybody in L.A. They loved him here.
But Mickey doesn't rely solely on the kindness of strangers for his Teflon record. He's established a far-reaching network of bribery and graft.
Everybody was on the pad. That means taking a payoff. Mickey said that at that time, Edmund Brown, the former governor, was a district attorney, and he said that he was on Mickey's payroll, and so was the whole 6th floor of the district attorney's office.
Well, my handle was from, maybe from $250,000 a day to maybe $600,000 a day. And there was at times when you only had maybe a minute and a half to move this money. And there would be an impossibility to operate this type of operation or this type of commission business without an absolute okay, where you didn't have to worry about anybody knocking on your door.
As Mickey said in his book, I did know some of the cops because they were on my payroll at some time or another. Many times I'd pull away from them without thinking and lose them. But then I'd turn back and go find them so that they wouldn't have to turn in a report that they lost me. They had to make a living too, you know. By the mid-40s, Mickey Cohen is a well-established fixture on the LA scene. But he'll always be a second banana as long as Ben Siegel is around looking after the New York mob's interests. However, in 1946, Ben becomes possessed with his dream of creating a glamorous haven for legalized gambling in the Nevada desert.
Well, when Ben started going to Vegas around 46 to start building the Flamingo, everything was turned over to Mickey. So Mickey was really almost like the boss here. He then ran all of the bookmaking, and he became what was known as a commission bookmaker. If a big bet came in for $50,000, $100,000, the little bookmakers couldn't handle that, so Mickey would. And then he could lay it off back in New York or Chicago or wherever he wanted to lay it off. So at that point, then, Mickey was really running Los Angeles.
Siegel's preoccupation with the construction of the Flamingo Hotel is a break for Mickey. But for Jack Dragna, it only rubs salt into an old wound and brings a long, festering vendetta to a boiling point.
From the time they came out here until 1947, Jack Dragna was a jealous and bitter man of Ben and Mickey.
On the night of June 19th, 1947, Ben Siegel is shot to death at his girlfriend's Beverly Hills home. His death paves the way for a struggle over gambling territory. People start getting killed. Los Angeles is about to experience its first gang war.
When Siegel was assassinated in 47, that's when Cohen began moving into his territory and taking over the bookmaking operations, and Dragna resented it.
While Siegel had strong ties to New York mob boss Frank Costello, Cohen is more of an independent. With Las Vegas now the new gambling mecca, Costello loses interest in Los Angeles.
Frank Costello backed off at that point and told them to settle it themselves. So that's what started the War of Sunset Strip.
First, there is the attempt on Mickey's life at his haberdashery on the Sunset Strip in 1948. One night, Cohen and his associate, Hookie Rothman, stop by the clothing store. As usual, the first thing Mickey does is go wash his hands. Suddenly, he hears gunshots.
During the War of Sunset Strip, when these guys came into Mickey's haberdashery to try to kill Mickey, when Hookie thought that they might hurt Mickey, he tried to grab the shotgun away from this guy, and the guy pulled the trigger and blew Hookie apart. He died trying to save Mickey.
The attack marks Dragna's formal declaration of war. This time, Mickey's life is saved by his obsessive hand-washing. But it is not the last time that Cohen will be spared by a peculiar string of good luck. Later, when Mickey pulls into the circular driveway of his Brentwood home, guns emerge from the hedges and bombard his car in a hail of gunfire. He quickly slams his Cadillac into reverse and beats a fast getaway. Miraculously, Mickey once again walks away without a scratch.
This guy had 9 lives. Nobody could kill him. He was impossible to kill.
The attacks on Mickey don't seem to faze the little guy a bit. He still keeps a high profile on the streets. When he spots one of Dragna's men, whom he knows to be an informant, he decides to go after him.
And Mickey Cohen definitely had a code. He lived by his code. A guy's either a rat or he's a good guy. If he's a rat, he talks to coppers. A good guy keeps his mouth shut.
At 1 o'clock on a sunny afternoon, Mickey Cohen and Frank Nicoli walk into Lucy's El Adobe restaurant in Hollywood. The men are on the trail of a stool pigeon named Jimmy Utley. As Mickey describes the incident in his book, he says, "We didn't try to kill him. We just gave him a terrible going over. Naturally, I gave him a few Sicilian backhanders. There was a little panic and people hollering as they watched this stool pigeon scream." So far, fortune has smiled on Mickey Cohen. But the War of the Sunset Strip is far from over, and the real showdown is yet to come. Los Angeles, July 20th, 1949, just before dawn. Tension has been growing for months between Jack Dragna and Mickey Cohen for control of the city. Things come to a head as Mickey and some friends exit Sherry's restaurant. Sherry's is a regular after-hours hangout for Cohen. He leaves with several friends and associates, including columnist Floribel Muir, Nettie Herbert, and his bodyguard. Across the street, 2 gunmen carefully take aim and open fire. Everybody in the party is wounded.
They killed Nettie Herbert, they shot 3 or 4 other people, and they also shot Mickey at the same time. Mickey was just shot in the shoulder, though.
It's the worst gangland shooting in the city's history. And the war continues. One night, the slumber of Mickey's peaceful Brentwood neighborhood is rocked by a powerful explosion as half of Cohen's house is blown apart.
You know, he and his wife had separate bedrooms on separate sides of the house. Well, he happened to spend the night in his wife's bedroom that night. When they blew up his house, they put the bomb on his bedroom. It still blew up half of his house, and it blew up all of his suits, which really upset him.
At the times when actually probably another person would have wound up in a straitjacket with what I was going through, with bombings and shootings, and of course it was an out-and-out war. It was called the Battle of the Sunset Strip. And even in those days, I slept very well. And a lot of people were wondering if I was in my correct mind.
Once again, Mickey has been spared by a stroke of good luck. But how long will his luck hold out? This is the question the public begins to ask as he continues to walk away from one attempt on his life after another.
The assassination attempts provoked a lot of outcry. But down deep, Mickey Cohen fascinated the public. And the public was fascinated by his ability to survive. I mean, look, they dynamited his home, he got away. They walked into his clothing store and started shooting, he got away.
The war hits too close to home and the public demands action. So the LAPD moves quickly and steps up its surveillance on Cohen. John O'Mara, one of the officers in the LAPD's Special Organized Crime Unit, remembers trying to keep tabs on Mickey.
We couldn't get into where he had his meetings with his cohorts, and that was in a big rumpus room and that's where his television was.
So the LAPD arranges to have an undercover cop pose as a TV technician and bug Mickey's TV. When the man comes back each week, supposedly to make sure the TV is working all right, he is actually there to change the batteries on the bug. For his trouble, Mickey tips him.
And Mickey was tipping him every time for bugging his own house.
The LAPD is not the only one keeping their eyes on Mickey Cohen. By 1949, the IRS is beginning to notice Mickey is doing quite nicely for himself, especially after he lavishly rebuilds his bombed-out home.
Mickey had a very nice home in Brentwood. His furnishings were very elaborate. It was a very nice house. He had a cook that would come in and cook. He had a housekeeper. He had everything that you could possibly have in that house.
Not a bad setup for a man who claimed his fortune was mined in a clothing store. But not everyone is fooled.
Bulldog Bowler of the IRS Treasury Department Intelligence Unit made a career out of nailing Mickey Cohen. He said Cohen was probably the most powerful mob figure on the West Coast at one time.
The heat has been turned up. With the IRS and the LAPD on his back, Mickey's resources in the war with Dragna are stretched thin. Sensing this weakness, Dragna tries a new tact and tests the loyalty of Mickey's gang.
These guys were very loyal to him, and a classic case is Frank Nicoli. Jack Dragna tried to lure him away, and he would not go for it. And he says, I wouldn't never cross Mickey. I love the guy. There was a knock on the door. 4 guys walked in, and they strangled Nicoli.
Assassination attempts, wiretaps, and murdered colleagues. The luster of Tinsel Town has been tarnished. And when the Brenda Allen case hits, matters get worse for Mickey as he is drawn into the fray.
Brenda Allen was the leading madam in Los Angeles. She had a string of girls working for her. She had the active support of the Vice Department and the LAPD. They kept her alive.
And the movie stars used to frequent her place, and the gangsters. And I guess some of them had a piece of the action. I don't know for sure, but I know that the cops were being paid off. There was several big scandals involving the police in her houses.
Hollywood's dirty little secret hits the front page when Mickey's friend, actor Robert Mitchum, is arrested for possession of marijuana in the company of 2 of Brenda's girls. In the ensuing controversy, the DA accuses the call girl ring of blackmailing rich clients with recordings and photographs. For no more reason except that he is LA's most prominent mobster, Mickey Cohen is subpoenaed.
I know one religion that I followed even through the days of my so-called racket days. I've had certain traits and ethics that I've lived up to, and I followed them to the letter. I've never mixed with prostitution, or either have I mixed with narcotics.
The prosecution can't turn up any witnesses or evidence linking him to Brenda Allen. And once more, Mickey is off the hook. But Brenda's impact on the scene is far from over.
The head of the Vice unit for LAPD was caught in a car with one of the top madams in L.A., and everybody wanted to know what was the head of the Vice unit doing in a car with L.A.'s leading madam.
The Allen case exposes the LAPD's widespread policy of accepting bribes, and everyone involved in the practice begins to feel the heat, including Mickey Cohen.
And that was one of the big scandals that led to the downfall of the police administration of that time and the eventual rise to power of Bill Parker.
With the LAPD under fire from all sides, the city appoints a new police chief, William H. Parker. Parker immediately becomes intent on cleaning house. Not knowing who might be on Cohen's payroll, Parker creates an intelligence division that reports directly to him. Mickey Cohen becomes the new police chief's public enemy number 1.
Mickey hated William Parker more than he ever hated anybody in his life. He thought this man was one of the most terrible people he ever met. Parker harassed Mickey all the time. Not personally, but he sent his men all the time. He was arrested once for jaywalking. He was arrested for all types of things, all kinds of things. He was harassed all the time.
We might have violated a few civil rights of their civil rights, but civil rights wasn't a great thing in those days, you know. And how the hell's a gangster going to say his civil rights were violated, you know?
Parker is particularly bothered by Mickey's love affair with the media.
He loved the press, and the press loved him. He would always stop, give them a story if they wanted one. I mean, he would let them take pictures.
Day after day, he was cultivating an image, and no other gangster in the history of this country has ever succeeded in doing that.
Part of the reason for his notoriety is his constant association with reporter Flora Belle Muir.
Flora Belle Muir was like Mickey Cohen's shadow. She covered the Sunset Strip beat. She went everywhere that he went. She reported on him daily. She was part of the reason Mickey Cohen became a legend.
In 1950, with Cohen's lifestyle well advertised, the IRS indicts him for tax evasion.
You didn't see the tax people going after the Dragness, but they certainly went after Mickey, and he was so much in the public limelight that he was chosen as a target. And I think it was his downfall. His love of celebrity was his downfall.
Mickey blames the indictment on Ben Siegel. He would later write, "I never knew of paying taxes in my life. In those days, I wouldn't cut nobody in with my end of the money. What the hell? You figure you're gonna heist it and pay taxes on it?" Benny said, "You son of a bitch, you know you gotta pay taxes." I wish to Christ I had never taken his advice, because if I didn't file no taxes, the best I would have ever done in the joint was a year and a day. Mickey's legal expenses pile up. He's forced to sell his haberdashery and auction his home and furnishings. In 1951, the feds win, and he's convicted and sentenced to a 5-year stint in the federal penitentiary. Cohen is accustomed to ritzy nightclubs and rubbing shoulders with the glitterati. A cramped and dirty prison cell is going to be a major adjustment. By the time he gets out, he will be returning to a very different life. By the time Mickey Cohen is released from prison in 1956, gambling has become a major pastime at luxury resorts. Las Vegas, Nevada is America's adult playground. Sin City. Havana, Cuba is teeming with eager tourists who are there for one reason: gambling. The profits are immense, and it's hard for Mickey to stay out of a racket that's bigger than ever.
Mickey, is it true that you're through with gambling? You wouldn't even wager maybe a deuce on the World Series or something?
Washed up with that game.
You're all through gambling?
Yeah, no, I'm no part of it.
Mickey, this is kind of a delicate question, but there's a rumor around town that somebody's posted a bounty on your head. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't.
Are you much concerned with it?
Not too much.
Do you know of anyone that might bear you any ill will to the extent of placing a bounty on your head?
I don't see why they should, and I wouldn't understand why it would be worth anything to anybody to do that.
It seems Mickey has reformed and is willing to commit to the straight and narrow. Though Cohen faces a very uncertain future, his friends stick by him.
When he came out of prison the first time, and he borrowed money, he borrowed a lot of money from people, and he pretty much lived off of loans and things like that.
One of his biggest benefactors is the evangelist Billy Graham, who helped sponsor Mickey's parole. Graham has been a friend since the 40s, and he invites Mickey to come to a revival in New York. He wants Cohen to give up Judaism for Christianity. He offers to pay all of Mickey's expenses plus $5,000. Mickey agrees, but at the revival meeting,
Mickey wouldn't go down. He waved, but he wasn't about to convert from Judaism to Christianity for Billy Graham.
After the revival, Mickey returns to Los Angeles and the high life.
He liked the Hollywood scene, he liked the nightclub scene, he liked the people, and he liked to take 10, 12, 20 people. He didn't care how many people went with him. He didn't like being alone.
And he had a lot of loyalty from these people, show business people, straight, legitimate people in business. They loved Mickey Cohen. He was a very well-liked guy.
He would not leave a $10 tip. He tipped everybody $100. I don't know where he got this money, but he would leave everybody big bills, you know. He bought everybody, and they loved him for it.
Looking to climb back into the limelight, the crime boss renews his love affair with the media. Mickey accepts an invitation to be interviewed on The Mike Wallace Show in 1957, and once more he lands in hot water.
He asked Mike Wallace, should I not say something? Mike Wallace wanted him to say whatever he felt, and he said that's what he did, and he said it caused nothing but trouble.
I got a little bit of a more difficult time than probably somebody else would have, because I have a police chief in Los Angeles, California, who happens to be a sadistic degenerate. This man has no respect for decency. He's a known alcoholic. He's been disgusting, and he's a known degenerate, in other words. He's a sadistic degenerate of the worst type.
Parker sues the ABC network and Mickey Cohen for libel after the show airs. Despite Cohen's protests, the suit is settled out of court. It is only the beginning of Mickey's troubles in 1957. Later that year, he finds himself back in the headlines when his close friend Johnny Stompanato begins dating actress Lana Turner. The relationship between Stompanato and Turner is said to be volatile at best, and when he allegedly beats her, it's front-page news.
I mean, look at Lana Turner. She's off to Acapulco with Johnny Stompanato, who beats the hell out of her everywhere they go, and then they kiss and make up.
The press takes liberty, referring to Johnny Stompanato as Mickey Cohen's bodyguard, a charge both men deny.
Mickey was very close friends with Johnny Stompanato, and I was as well. Johnny Stompanato was not at all like he was portrayed in the press. He wasn't Mickey's henchman, his bodyguard. He wasn't anything like that. He was just a nice guy that Mickey happened to like. Johnny would have never beaten up on Lana Turner. He loved her too much. He even told me, he said, "I really like that broad."
On April 5th, 1958, 32-year-old Johnny Stompanato is stabbed dead in Lana's bedroom by her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane. The press has a field day. At the inquest, Cheryl claims that she overheard Stompanato threaten to kill her mother, so she grabbed a knife and rushed to her mother's defense.
"And I want you to get out." And after I said that, I was walking towards the bedroom door, and he was right behind me, and I opened it. And my daughter came in. I swear it was so fast. I truthfully thought she had hit him in the stomach.
Mickey really thought that Johnny must have been sleeping or Lana Turner stabbed him herself. He said there was no way that this guy was going to let a 14-year-old girl run across a room and stab him. He was such a clean stab wound that he wouldn't have even put up his arms to try to block her.
The thought was that it wasn't the girl that did the killing. It was Lana Turner.
I'm convinced she killed him. And the week before, she went to a local hardware store in Beverly Hills and bought that kitchen knife that was used to kill Stompanato. I broke the story.
When Lana leaves a restaurant as Mickey enters a few days after the killing, the press falsely claims that she is afraid for her life, that Mickey is out to avenge his friend's death. Cohen blames the story on Lana's press agent and calls her, telling her to lay off.
And when Johnny Stompanato got killed, they were all making it like he was a rat and he did this and he did that and Lana Turner was afraid of him and all this. But it turned out that there was love letters that had been written.
These letters not only profess Lana Turner's love for Stompanato, but also contradict her testimony about their so-called oppressive relationship. The letters find their way to Mickey, who gives them to the press to help clear Stompanato's name.
Because these love letters showed that there was a wonderful relationship between these two before the killing.
In 1959, after the Stompanato affair cools down, Cohen is subpoenaed to testify in Washington, D.C. at the McClellan hearings on organized crimes ties to labor unions. He goes up against Chief Counsel Robert Kennedy, and the interchange turns nasty.
I respectfully decline to answer.
For what reason?
I respectfully decline to answer on the grounds that it may tend to incriminate me.
Would you relate to the committee why you received the $11,000?
I respectfully decline to answer on the same grounds.
Could you tell the committee any other instances where you received money for remaining out of a fight of this kind?
I respectfully decline to answer, sir.
Mickey was angered by Kennedy, as he recalls in his autobiography. Bobby Kennedy, this snotty little guy, questioned like an out-and-out punk. He says, "Now off the record, let me ask you one question. What's the meaning in the underworld or racket world when somebody's lights are to be put out?" So I says, "Look, I don't know what you're talking about here. I'm not an electrician." Boy, he got hot as a pistol. Mickey Cohen had now made an enemy of Robert Kennedy, right at the time that another Cohen enemy, Police Chief Parker, is looking for ways to get Cohen.
Chief Parker at this time was really fed up with Mickey, and they were really bitter enemies. He called Bobby Kennedy and made Bobby Kennedy aware of what was going on.
Parker calls Kennedy's attention to Cohen's extravagant lifestyle and minimal reported income. In 1961, Mickey is again charged with and found guilty of tax evasion and is sentenced to 15 years in a federal pen.
And if anybody should be bitter, I have a right to be bitter for what happened with me. I got hit with a 15-year tax sentence, which was the largest that was ever given to anybody.
And then they sent Mickey to Alcatraz, which was really unheard of because Alcatraz is supposed to be for violent people that are sentenced for, violent crimes. Mickey was just sentenced on income tax. So the only other person was Capone that was sent there. So it was really kind of an unjust thing to send him to Alcatraz, but they got away with that too. Mickey stayed in Alcatraz about 2.5 years, and then they closed Alcatraz down in '63, and he was transferred to Atlanta Penitentiary in Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta is paradise compared to the hellhole where Mickey's been. But 15 years is a long stretch. A lot can happen, as Mickey finds out. For anyone, especially someone with obsessive habits, spending 15 years in a federal prison is rough. But for Mickey Cohen, matters are about to get worse. One night in 1963, Mickey suffers an unprovoked attack in prison. As he sits watching television, someone sneaks up behind him.
A crazed inmate named Burl Estes McDonald had a lead pipe, came behind Mickey, and savagely beat him over the head 2 or 3 times with this lead pipe. They thought Mickey was going to die right then, but he didn't die. He was in a coma for 21 days.
After the beating, Mickey is transferred to a medical facility in Springfield, Missouri. He survives radical brain surgery. He can't walk, can't use one arm. He begins 4 hours of physical therapy a day. Though his health gradually improves, he will never fully recover.
He had Melvin Belli, who was a very famous attorney in the Los Angeles, San Francisco area, represent him, and they sued the government. The government was found negligent for not protecting Mickey. They gave Mickey $110,000, so they said, well, upon your release, you can get this money. When Mickey got released, they never gave him the money. He couldn't get a quarter.
Many felt the federal prison system was at fault for housing him with a disturbed prisoner, and it was rather sad. I mean, it was the end of the brash, cocky little man who cut such a path through L.A. It was really sad to see him on camera.
When Cohen comes out of prison 9 years later, the world has changed a great deal. In 1972, a war is raging in Vietnam. Protesters take to the streets at home. Women are wearing short skirts, men have long hair. The Godfather offers America a glimpse of organized crime in a chillingly realistic portrayal, and Cohen's nemeses, Chief Parker and Robert Kennedy, are both dead. Cohen lives off the generosity of his friends. He can't show income or the IRS will come after it. He isn't as active as he once was and doesn't make headlines as often, but yet another bizarre event connects him to the high and mighty. On February 5, 1974, Patty Hearst, the granddaughter of Mickey's friend, publisher William Randolph Hearst, is kidnapped by a group of left-wing radicals, the Symbionese Liberation Army, and is videotaped helping them rob a bank.
When Patty Hearst got kidnapped, her father reached to Mickey right away to see if he could help, and he tried the best he could.
Always loyal to his friends, Cohen presses his contacts. Getting a lead on Patty's whereabouts, Mickey agrees to meet with her parents, but is surprised to learn that if he brings her in, she may go to jail.
Well, when I learned that, it was a shock to me because I thought that they knew what they were doing. When I learned that they didn't have it in that kind of a shape, I just openly told them, I said, look, I wouldn't bring nobody in to go to prison.
After the Hearst affair, Mickey writes a tell-all autobiography. But like an aging movie star, he is forgotten by the city who craves the next big thing. Suffering from stomach cancer, he dies on July 29, 1976. He's buried at Hillside Cemetery in a private ceremony. To this day, he remains LA's most famous gangster.
There was something about him. It was like people, they liked him. He was the little guy. He defied the cops, the mobs, the politicians, and they admired him.
But he never entertained a thought of doing anything else for a living. He was very happy with who he was, and what he achieved, what he accomplished. He said he had met more people and a better class of people in his walk of life than he ever would have met in any other walk of life.
Mickey Cohen was a big name in this town. You didn't get any bigger than the Mick.
Mickey Cohen stands as the symbol of a different era, when Los Angeles was just acquiring its first sophistication, when gangsters only targeted other gangsters. Unique for his love of celebrity, his rough-edged charm, his natural affection for people, he's as much a part of Hollywood as any star on the silver screen. A real Hollywood hood.